Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Shavua Tov Mevorach, Beruchim Abaim to everybody. Today is Sunday, the 10th day of Elul, August 30th, 2020. Today's class has been graciously sponsored by Mrs. Gloria Fascha Beda and family in memory of her beloved father, Yosef ben Rachel Alav Shalom. Iratzon, to the merit of Torah learning today, be an elevation for his neshama. We hope that everybody had a beautiful Shabbat Ki Tetzeh, wherever you may be. Now we come to Perashat Ki Tavo. So therefore today, Be'ezat Hashem, we're going to learn the Tomer Devora message of yesterday, as well, God willing, and time allowing, the message of the day. So we come across chapter 9 of Tomer Devora, and he begins by saying, Yesh bene Adam she'enan hagunim. There are people that they are not the way they should be. Whatever type of situation or challenging personalities or behavior patterns that are not the proper way. And yet, says Tomer Devora, what do we see? V'akadosh Baruch Hu merachem al kulam. And Hashem has mercy upon everyone. As we learned this in the early days of Tomer Devora, that even when a person commits a transgression, Hashem's disappointment and anger based on the type of sin committed doesn't last forever and wears out after a bit. Nevertheless, the Pasuk says, Behanoti et asher achon, the Gemara in Masechet Berachot, right? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Borei Olam says that he has a safe deposit box in the heavens, and this is the name of it, Otzar Hanunim. Otzar Hanunim, the storehouse for those that are not worthy. What does it mean? שהקדוש ברוך הוא חונן ונותן להם מתנת חינם. God gives them free gifts, even that they are not entitled based on their actions. Borei Olam says, next time you do better. Next time you do better. But the Gemara in Baba Kama says, Amar Rabbi Hanina, Kol Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Batran. A person cannot say, since God has this insurance policy, even against those that sin, and God does not constantly activate judgments, and he gives me leeway to act and do what I please, that doesn't mean that a person should take advantage of this beautiful element of godliness towards our deeds. Why? Because none of us knows what is our credit line. How much credit do we have in Shamayim for committing certain transgressions, or for committing transgressions to begin with? And Borei Olam, let's be honest here, and we're talking about God. So the commentary from Tahat HaTomer says that Borei Olam always, before activating judgment, looks to see if he's able to find something good about this person to delay as much as possible the wake-up call for the person need to change. And it says that Borei Olam made a promise to Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov. As the Pasuk says, Asher nishba'ta la'abotenu, that God made a covenant with Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov by saying, I will keep an eye on Am Israel Am Israel will remain alive forever. So Borei Olam says, Hare yesh lahem zechut avot. They have the merit of Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov. And I made a commitment, God says. And yet, if their descendants are not worthy, but the parents were worthy. And although there is a secondary opinion in the Talmud that says that we ran out of credit already from Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov, at the end of the day, Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov lived between 3,300 and 3,800 years ago, almost 4,000 years ago. Nevertheless, Borei Olam says, "Banahayim achiu teknu." I will continue. I will continue until they improve and they become better and better. So, this is the godly behavior pattern of yesterday's class. Now, what is expected from us? What is expected from me? Okay, God has patience, God has tolerance, God keeps giving the persons credit and life and wealth and health and happiness and beautiful homes and everything wonderful. But how do I transfer this level of godliness into my day-to-day life? So it says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, and it says, Bekach yeh ha'adam. A person must emulate God in this way. And it says, even when a person encounters wicked people, people, God forbid, that are against the Torah. Because there are different levels of people that are non-observant. Some people simply don't know. Were never exposed, never learned, never had a Jewish education. But what happens with those that did have and know, and yet they turn, God forbid, against? It says, nevertheless, don't act in a cruel manner towards them. Don't taunt them. Ela yirahem alehem. Pray for them. Have mercy on them. And at the end of the day, they are descendants of Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov. And even though that they may not be worthy, but they come from beautiful forefathers. And this is an advice that occasionally I give to people when they come and share with me particular situations. And this is one of the ones that I use sometimes based on the circumstances, that when talking, if it's a family member or if it's a friend or if it's a relative, whatever that may be, that sometimes talking is not what's going to make a difference. Sometimes talking could create actually greater problems and more unhappiness and even animosity among people. But many times when you're dealing with a tough cookie situation, so to speak, pray for them. Pray for them that Hashem should open up their heart, should open up their eyes, should activate the brain to realize the need to change. And it says, Be'amebazeh habanim, mebazeh habanot, mehila ha'avot. A person, it says here, that despises the sons, despises the fathers too. So therefore, it says, Tomer Devora, what are you going to tell Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov? Your son Moshe is not acting properly? That's going to create a certain sense of embarrassment. And therefore, it says, Umtakenam kefi koho. Do your best. If you talk to them, do it respectfully and properly. And if talking to them doesn't help, trying to reason will not help, pray for them. Pray for Hashem to activate a positive change in the life of this individual. Then we have Another mentioned statement of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero on how much credit does the Jewish people have. For example, you have a credit card, right? You have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 credit line. If you use more than the credit line, chances are that the charge may not be approved, or the credit card be declined, or it will affect your credit score. And obviously we know that in today business world, credit cards in the business world rather, there are different kinds of cards with different limits. Some of them have limits, some of them don't have limits. Some of them the limit is very high. Some of them you gotta pay full statement every month. Some of them you get a flexible payment plan, etc. Some of them zero APR, some of them with some APR. So the question is, where do we draw the line of our credit in Shamayim? We have been around the world for almost 6,000 years, 5,780, which B'ezrat Hashem in a few weeks will be 81. So where do we draw the line? So it says, Midah yesh le'akadosh baruch hu im Israel. Hashem has one more card for the well-being of Am Israel. And it says, Keshetama hazechut, even when they run out of credit, ma ya'aseh, God says, have a soft spot for the Jewish people. What is it? Zacharti lach chesed ne'uraych. God says, I remember when you follow me in your youthful years, to follow me in the desert, in a non-working type of environment for the Jewish people. And the Pasuk says, Aharai, to go behind me in the desert. It means following Moshe and Aharon to the 40 years in the desert. And says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Mamash zocher HaKadosh Baruch Hu yemei kadmonim. Borei Olam remembers that love. Think back when you were dating your spouse and when you marry her, how things were in the dating scene and how things are after many years of marriage. And I wish a happy anniversary to my wife and I. Today is our English wedding anniversary. A day like today. I remember that beautiful day. The Hebrew one already was last week. So I remember how was the date and how the marriage turns to be. So it says that Borei Olam remembers that level of connection that we had with him in our daily days. Ahava shehaya mikodem umerachem al Israel. It says, and what that brings, says Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, suddenly God says, wow, this person went through a lot in their life. Let me watch the wedding movie. Wow, Rabbi, you look very handsome. Hair, black hair, always, clean, presentable, nice style. What happened? We all live and married, Baruch Hashem, a few years. More than a few, Ben Porat Yosef. So it says that Borei Olam suddenly, when he goes back to the person's beginning of life, how the person went through life, suddenly all the mitzvot that the person did pop up. This tefillah, this hesed, this charity, this putting on tefillin, this Shabbat, etc. Miyom shenoldu, from the day that a person was born. Bechol hamidot hatovot, and all the good behaviors that the person display. And from this, Borei Olam says, you know what? I know you. You can do much better than what you're portraying to me in this spiritual hiccup. I'll give you an extra chance. Continues and it says, Kach ha'adam. Also we should be this way. And think on the positive of the person, which is something that we discussed in the past. Look at people with a positive set of eyes. Our challenge that we have is that the Yetzer Hara always pinpoints the negative of a person. That's why I believe this is quoted in the name of the Rabbi of Kotsk, that he says that a person needs to be content with themselves and understand that I am I and you are you. And each person should worry about themselves and should see themselves in you and you see yourself in them. Is actually a very famous song, I think by one of the singers by the name of Avraham Fried. Very interesting song. And says that message from the great Rabbi Menachem of Kotsk, that a person needs to become the best friend to themselves and not to become their worst enemy. Very deep concept. But it says, you would, if, I don't want to say the word guaranteed, but Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says that if when we see someone that suddenly our heart rate increases and you switch your happy face to a long face, it says Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, press pause on your heart for an instant. Try to think on all the goodness of that person. That person, he or she, may have certain attitudes and deficiencies. I ask you a question. Who doesn't have deficiencies? Who doesn't have areas in their life that they must work? Obviously, some people have more, some people have less, some people work on themselves, some people don't work much on themselves. But bottom line, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero is training us to think that if we add the positive thought about a person, that can benefit our life, because we minimize the drama and we minimize the unhappy thoughts about that particular individual. Let's continue. And this is, in a nutshell, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, the many different ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. And it says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, at the end of yesterday's chapter, that when we activate any of the many lessons that we learn from day one till today, the 10th of Elul, we open that door, and that particular act benefiting someone's in the thought, in the feeling, etc., can reciprocate to us. So basically, if I want to have a better life, And when I say better life, I'm not talking about physically better life. I'm talking about emotionally, spiritually, mentally. At the end of the day, the physical and the material element in life are necessary, but they are not on top of the list. We need to learn how to prioritize. You need to have a clear mind. You need to have emotional stability. You need to have a spiritual growth and development. Everything else will follow along eventually. But bottom line, Moshe Cordovero says that a person should not forget of these important lessons, because these lessons, how much is from God to a person and how much is my goal to imitate that godly element, but don't forget about yourself, as the song said before. If I am I and you are you and we are we, something like that the song goes. Beautiful song. So it says, you, meaning me, I want that tolerance that I'm showing to that person, which is minuscule and minimal, because I'm minuscule and I'm minimal. And I don't mean minimalist in furnishing or home decor, the way streamlined home decoration goes today. I'm talking about as a human, I'm limited. But imagine yourself if that minimal element that I display for another person, Borei Olam reciprocates it to me. And guess what? When God gives it to us, it's not minimum, it's large. Berachot, Yeshuot, blessing, salvation, redemption, tranquility, patience, tolerance, calmness, peace of mind, stability, at all levels. We have the key. And Rabbi Moshe Cordovero has delivered us this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful message. That was yesterday, the 9th of Elul. Today, we begin with the second chapter of Tomer Devora that coincides by the 10th day of Elul, which is today's day. I'm going to say a few things, some concepts of today's chapter we had review in the beginning of the class of Tomer Devora, but now we're going to start to wrap things around our mind, our spirit, and Be'ezat Hashem will apply it to life as well. So it says, remember the opening statement of Tomer Devora, first line, first chapter, what he said, Ha'adam ra'ui sheidame lekono. It is proper for a person to emulate their creator. So we said this. So now he begins and it says, yes, we said in the beginning the importance of a person emulating God. Sharich shiye bo kama gufe pe'ulot. It says, I know the theory. Now, how do I activate all these messages of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero in reality? Okay, Rabbi, you told me to be tolerant, you told me to have patience, you told me to pray for people, you told me not to belittle people, you told me to look at people for the good that they have and don't concentrate in the negative that they have. Beautiful. Shkoyach. Hazaku Baruch. The she'elah is, how do I get there? Automatically, we're going to close the book. Okay, the rabbi said to change. We're changing. This is not going to recess or coming to Florida for vacation. So it says a very interesting concept. And it says, we're going to start from the bottom. And this is not the first class only. This is actually 7 or 8 areas in life. And I give you the heads up that some of the things that we are going to be discussing relate to the human body and how the human body carries certain spiritual element that could be very beneficial to the person, or God forbid, could be very detrimental to the person. So we begin. Harishona. Rule number 1. All inclusive. All inclusive, he says. He midat ha'anava. Is humility. Humility, it says, mipene shehi teluya baketer. Keter means the crown. Corona in Spanish. Okay? Which in a way, if we talk about Corona, we hope and pray that things will only get better all over the world, Baruch Hashem. Thank God in Miami, the numbers are looking much better these days than we had for the past month and a half. So B'ezrat Hashem, it goes better and better for society and humanity. So one of the lessons that we take from this unwelcome visitor is actually humility. We thought we are on top of the world. We thought that we come and go and live and fly and do and buy and sell and travel and enjoy to the best of our abilities. And then suddenly Hashem, God, sends one of his messengers, especially the invisible one, to put a break in our life. Somebody said, Rabbi, how are we getting ready for Rosh Hashanah? I said, I don't know, I need 6 more months. I said, why? Because since Purim till now, we were 30-40% performance compared to the past. But maybe this is exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. And that's why this is connected to the midah of Keter. Keter means a crown. Can be connected to the head of the person, but I think it more on the understanding of who are we? Who we are as a nation. That our survival is based on miracles and wonders and protections from the Almighty. And it says that the person needs to learn how to be humble. What does that mean? How to be humble? What does it mean to be humble? So first, as we learned yesterday in Living Emunah, that the importance of a person recognizing Hashem's involvement in our life. And that nothing happens without Hashem's involvement and participation. And Borei Olam takes care of us, provides for us, protects us. So it's an all-inclusive package. So the more we think about Hashem's essence and behavior towards us, the more we become humble by being able to become the recipients of Hashem's bountiful blessing. And nothing is ours. And therefore it says that like Hashem has the humility of being with us and giving the blessing to us, even though he can say, you know what, today you don't deserve it because yesterday you acted XYZ. God has the power to do so. And yet, he continues giving us. It says, En sablan be'anav ke'elokenu. There is no one that has more tolerance or more patience like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And humility. If you remember a while back, I mentioned the creation of Adam Arishon. And the pasuk there says, Na'aseh Adam kesalmenu kidmutenu. Let us make man in our format, in our image. And Rashi says, Mikan ata lomed an davuto shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. From here you learn the humility of God. That God didn't have to consult with the Malachim. He could have said, E'aseh Adam, I will make. But God says, Na'aseh Adam, let us make in our format, in our image. Or Adam Arishon, God calls Abraham, Ayeka, where are you? What, God didn't know where Adam Arishon was? He needed to put a tracker on him? But that's also part of Hashem's humility. Hashem didn't want to go to him directly to scold or to rebuke Adam Arishon. He wanted first to engage in conversation. Same thing with Cain. Aye Hevel achicha, Fen, where is your brother Hevel? What, God doesn't know where Hevel is? All these examples, including later on the appointment of Bezalel as the master engineer of the building of the Mishkan, that God, so to speak, consulted with Moshe, and Moshe consulted with the Jewish people, and the Jewish people said to Moshe, I don't understand you. You approved this application, God approved this application, what else do you need? The Gemara says no. When you're going to make a community decision, it needs to be thorough properly. So it says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, here that it says that never, the same way that Hashem continues blessing the person, even just with life and health, despite the sins committed, we should not look for ways to punish or to, God forbid, not treat people in the proper way, even though intellectually justifies because they are acting like an animal. I'm sorry to use this term, but I don't know what else to say. In other words, we don't lower ourselves, even in the way that someone behaves. And that is a godly element, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says. You continue being a Ben Adam. Don't change who you are. And it says the following. Borei Olam provides from the most gigantic creation known as the Re'em to the Betse Kinim. Betse Kinim. Kinim in English means lice. I ask you, have you ever seen an unborn lice in an egg? The lice by itself, it's invisible. Remember in the early days in school, they checked the head for lice. And what did you see? Nothing. You need a microscope to see it sometimes. And yet Borei Olam provides for them. And God doesn't say, oh, you're nothing of a creation, you're a tiny lice that people don't like, I'm not feeding you, I'm not providing for you. It says, Borei Olam mashgiach, Borei Olam supervises, benoten rahamav al kulam, and God distributes daily kindness and compassion. So needs to be our behavior towards our fellow men. ולא יתבזה שום נברא בעולם, and never belittle or act in a condescending manner towards anyone, even on the simplest person, and do the best that you can to help people, whatever level it means. Sometimes by talking to someone, sometimes by listening to someone, sometimes by giving them a bit of money, or giving them a loan, or giving them a job, or introducing to someone, or just help the person. Try that anyone that comes to you to try to help to the best of your abilities. Beyativ, and try to do anyone that comes on your door. Maybe Borei Olam, not maybe, for sure. God is sending us that person because we became God's agent to help the person. That should be a sign of happiness. Why? Because God is giving me the opportunity to help someone. Why is God giving me the opportunity to help someone? Maybe because God likes us and loves us, and He says, you know what? I need a good person to help my child. I want you to be that person. And this is something that is connected to the fundamental essence of godliness, related to Hashem's behavior, but connected also to the aspect of humility, being willing to help and to assist those that may be in need. We'll take the opportunity once again to express our gratitude to Mrs. Gloria Fasja Beda and her family for graciously sponsoring today's class, La'ilui Nishmat, her beloved father, Yosef ben Rachel, alav shalom. My dear Kahal Kadosh, I would like to wish everyone to have a beautiful week. Shavua Tov u'Mevorach. We'll see each other Be'ezat Hashem tomorrow morning, 9:15 via iTorah.com. Shavua Tov u'Mevorach. All the best.